in Los Angeles. Hey, Kenyatta, what's on your mind today?
Well, thank you for stealing my thunder, Mr. Hartman.
How so?
Well, because...
It says here you're calling about fascism.
Yes, and what I wanted to say to you is I wanted to posit to you, and from the strict Merriam-Webster definition of fascism, I wanted to posit to you and your audience, and hopefully you will correct me, and I'm hoping I'm wrong. But as this black man in the United States, and knowing my history, not only here for 400 years, but before, I would argue that for black people, we've always lived in a fascist state.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you at all, Kenyatta.
Well, I know that, Tom, but the reason I'm saying it is not for your benefit. I know you well enough to know that you do know that, but I don't know that your audience does. And so for the European Americans or white Americans that are running around with their hair on fire about this fascism, let me tell you real quickly, when I was a toddler, not even 2 years old, in 1965, I remember my parents lived near USC in Los Angeles, and I know you know the area well. Mm-hmm. And I remember, and as you know, my father was a former drill instructor in the Marine Corps, and by that time he had left and separated, but he was in reserves. In any event, I was used to seeing his uniform and so forth, and even though I was barely walking, and I do remember this, I remember saying to him, why is there all the military men? See, so what I'm talking about is I've seen tanks on the streets. I've seen that.
Yeah.
I saw it again in 1992. And during my brief, albeit inglorious involvement in law enforcement, I can tell you this. If you really want to know what fascism is, especially if you're black, go to your local police department and file a complaint against an officer. You'll find out what it is.
Yeah.
Remember this, Tom, that especially Republicans, and you know I'm nonpartisan, but I caucus with the Democrats. I'm like Bernie. But let me tell you this, Tom. The Republicans say, and they're saying it a lot now, power comes at the end of the barrel of a gun.
Yeah, Mao was saying. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that one of the things that many of our Republican or our Democratic, let me start that over, Kenyatta. I think one of the things that many white Democrats who are registered as Democrats don't know is that one of the first groups that Hitler went after in 1934 were people who were registered to vote as socialists. Mm-hmm. I mean, they ended up in the camps, not the death camps. We're talking the labor camps. Places like later became death camps. And if you think that you're registered as a Democrat right now, and if this whole thing gets taken over, if you think that you're safe, I've got a couple of history books to share with you, starting with William Shearer's Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, because there is no safe place when the fascists take over unless you're one of them. And that's the decision people have to make. And only a small number of people, well, actually a majority of Americans technically, but I would say, probably a fraction of the white population, maybe a third, maybe half of the white population is going to align themselves with that fascist movement. And it's going to be them against the rest of America. But, we've seen how a minority like that can take over a country. And it's not pretty. Kenyatta, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
If you wanted to say something.
No, I just anecdotally wanted to tell you, and this is something that I know it's esoteric, but I've grown up in my life around a lot of gunfire. And there are you can tell the caliber of a weapon by the report, the way it sounds. And on the 4th of July this year, I noticed something very interesting. Aside from fireworks, because fireworks sound different than gunfire, I noticed, and well into the night, and I'm in a fairly conservative enclave of Los Angeles, fairly conservative. Because they wouldn't have me if it was really conservative. I'd be run out of town. But I noticed, Tom, that gunfire went on well into the night and in the morning, and it really disturbed me. And I wondered how many people picked that up. There are bad things coming here.
Yeah, yeah. I hope you're wrong, Kenyatta. I fear you're right.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
Thanks a lot
Thank
for
you,
the
brother.
call. Good to hear from you.